Can a single statue transform a town's future? Or will it just spark another local row? That's the big question hanging over Dungannon as locals debate whether a monument to Hugh O'Neill should become the next big tourism draw for the area. A wartime lord at the center of a modern plan. Dungannon is looking to its dramatic past to shape its future, with a proposal to create a new visitor focus around a statue of Hugh O'Neill, one of the most prominent Irish leaders of the 9 Years' War. O'Neill, a powerful Gaelic lord, led an alliance of Irish nobles in a determined campaign against English rule before ultimately leaving Ireland in the famous flight of the Earls in 1607, a moment often seen as the end of traditional Gaelic leadership. Now, local leaders hope that a striking sculpture of this historic figure could anchor a fresh vision for the Hill of the O'Neill, turning it into a must-see stop for tourists interested in Irish history and national identity. What exactly is being proposed? Mid-Ulster District Council has submitted a funding request to the Department for Communities to help deliver a wider redevelopment of the Hill of the O'Neill site, with the statue as a central feature. The concept goes beyond a single monument. Plans also include an adventure-style play park and improved event spaces, aiming to create a place where families can spend an entire day rather than just dropping by for a quick look. In effect, the hill would become a multi-purpose hub, part historical landmark, part leisure destination, and part community gathering point. Why this hill matters so much? The Hill of the O'Neill is not just a random green space. It has been a seat of power and symbolism for centuries. From the 14th century onwards, this elevated site served as the military and political stronghold of the O'Neill clan, chosen for its commanding height and sweeping views over the surrounding landscape, which made it strategically invaluable. Archaeological evidence suggests that people were living and worshipping here even before Christianity, with possible settlement activity dating back thousands of years, making it a deep-rooted part of Ulster's story rather than a modern invention. It's about time. Local voices in favor. Independent councillor Barry Monteith argues that, while some development has already taken place on the Hill of the O'Neill, there is still major untapped potential waiting to be unlocked. In his view, a statue of Hugh O'Neill in his hometown is long overdue and would honor a central figure in the region's heritage while also giving families a reason to visit and stay for hours, especially with a nearby adventure play park. He also believes that more of the site's ancient history, particularly its pre-Christian past, deserves to be showcased and interpreted so visitors can truly grasp the layers of time present on the hill. The mast that divides opinion. But here's where it gets controversial. Standing on the same site is an old Army communications mast, and it has become a lightning rod for disagreement. Some locals, including Monteith, would like to see the mast removed entirely, arguing that it jars with the historic character of the hill and undermines the atmosphere of a heritage destination. Others, however, insist that the mast is itself part of Dungannon's story, reflecting more recent chapters in the town's military and communications history, and they think erasing it would be a mistake. Ruined towers and living history. Near the mast, visitors can see two ruined towers that look out over Dungannon, the only surviving fragments of an 18th-century grand house that once dominated the hill. These remains act as a physical reminder that the site has gone through multiple phases, from Gaelic stronghold to big house estate to modern town landmark, each leaving its own marks on the landscape. That layered history raises a tricky question. Should redevelopment tidy the past into a neat, curated story, or embrace the messy mixture of ruins, masts, monuments, and memories that have accumulated over centuries? Can the mast actually be moved? A feasibility study is underway to explore whether the communications mast could be removed or significantly altered without causing problems. The challenge is that several essential services, including some emergency responders, NI water, and mobile phone networks, still rely on this structure, so any changes must protect public safety and connectivity. The council expects the study to be completed by March, at which point officials will have to balance heritage ambitions with practical infrastructure needs, a trade-off that rarely pleases everyone. Historic groups back the statue, but not total change. James Kane of the O'Neill Country Historical Society broadly supports the redevelopment efforts, including the idea of bringing sculptures into the landscape to make history feel more tangible. He points to an existing wooden sculpture of Shane O'Neill in the courtyard at Benbub Priory, noting that visitors frequently stop to admire it and read the nearby information panel, suggesting that well-designed art can bring the past vividly to life. For Kane, the mast still counts as part of the hill's long story, so he leans toward integrating, interpreting, or rethinking it rather than simply erasing it, an opinion that could draw some strong reactions from those who see it as an eyesore. What local businesses want and fear. Local traders say they welcome any thoughtful investment in the Hill of the O'Neill, but they are also clear that improvements on the hill alone won't solve all of Dungannon's economic challenges. Gemma Martin, who runs a shoe shop in the town, hopes the project will help regenerate the town center by increasing footfall, supporting jobs, and ultimately making Dungannon a more attractive place to shop and spend time. At the same time, she stresses that the council must back traders directly as well, through measures such as business rates relief, better involvement of local retailers in decision-making, and upgrades to core amenities and infrastructure that businesses rely on every day. Face versus body of the town. Pet supplies shop owner Richard Farquhar raises a different concern: practical access and parking around the Hill of the O'Neill. He worries that, without careful planning for vehicles and visitors, improved facilities on the hill might not translate into real benefits for shops on the surrounding streets. Using a vivid metaphor, he compares the hill to the face of Dungannon, something that can be dressed up with fresh makeup and hairstyle, while the body of the town feels tired, overworked, and in need of deeper care, suggesting that cosmetic projects risk looking good without genuinely helping traders. Is investment always good investment? Farquhar acknowledges that any form of investment is welcome in principle, especially in a time when many town centers struggle with empty units and changing shopping habits. But he hints at a broader tension many communities face. Flagship projects can photograph well and attract headlines, yet fail to address everyday challenges like parking, business costs, and the health of the wider high street. This raises a provocative question. Should public money prioritize landmark attractions that draw outsiders, or the less glamorous improvements that quietly support the people who live and work in the town year-round? What funding is already in motion? Mid-Ulster District Council says its staff are continuing to collaborate with the Department for Communities on a broader package of regeneration work in Dungannon. A spokesperson for the department has confirmed that funding has already been approved for the first phase of a related scheme focused on enhancing shopfront lighting in the town centre, with a budget of £400,000. This initial phase is also expected to be completed by March, meaning both the lighting upgrades and the mast feasibility study could converge as key decision points around the same time. The bigger question: heritage, identity, and who the town is for. And this is the part most people miss. The statue of Hugh O'Neill is not just about tourism. It's also about who gets to define Dungannon's story in the 21st century. For some, a bold sculpture of a Gaelic lord symbolizes pride, resistance, and cultural continuity, while for others it may feel like a selective reading of history that overshadows later chapters, including the period represented by the army mast. The debate over whether to remove, reinterpret, or retain that mast becomes a powerful symbol in its own right. Are we rewriting the landscape to fit a preferred narrative, or honestly accepting every layer, even the uncomfortable ones? Your turn. What should Dungannon do? So, should the Hill of the O'Neill become a polished heritage attraction, with a heroic statue, family play park, and perhaps a cleared skyline, or should it remain a more complex site where ruins, masts, and modern infrastructure sit side by side? Is it right to remove the Army Communications mast to create a cleaner historical experience? Or does that risk sanitizing the town's more recent past in favor of a romanticized version of history? Would you prioritize big symbolic projects like a Hugh O'Neill statue, or steady, less visible support for everyday traders and infrastructure? And where would you draw the line between celebrating heritage and rewriting it? Let's hear it. Do you agree with keeping the mast as part of the story? Or would you rather see it gone to make way for a purer historic landscape? Share where you stand and why in the comments.